Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. They say that when Les Silver speaks, people listen. And Les Silver has a great track record in our industry about bringing so much technology to the forefront in fixed operations. And we are honored again to have him here with us at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Les, welcome back to the event.
Ted, thank you so much again for giving me the opportunity to participate. It's one of the highlights of my, almost every month now, it seems.
It does seem. And your theme today has been something that's been a recurring topic, and it's coming up more and more. So I'm excited to hear about how electric vehicles are going to impact service and parts operations. So Les, with that, the show is all yours.
Thanks, Ted. Yes, it's clear, Ted, that the EVs are coming and that they are going to have an impact. And I thought I'd share some thoughts on what I believe the impact is going to be. And I think it may be a little bit different than what you may have seen, heard, or read about from other sources. So let me jump right in. Most of the OEMs have made major commitments to EVs. And most of the projections suggest that by 2030, about half of the vehicles sold in 2030 will be EVs. What impact will this have on the dealership service and parts business? That's the main question. I hear a lot of quotes. So if one of them that I hear is dealership fixed absorption is going to drop dramatically. It'll be down to 25%. I hear that there's only half of the service work needed on an EV compared to an internal combustion vehicle. I hear that dealerships, they're not going to have enough work to be able to fully utilize their service facilities. So I often hear these quotes and read these stories and ask myself, is this true? Is this what we're looking for in the future? So let's take a look at it in more detail. There's three questions that I ask myself in trying to determine the impact. The first question is, what work is there that will be available on these vehicles? And what are the economics? How much will that cost? The second is, will the work actually be performed? Having it as a requirement is one thing. Having it actually bought by the customer is another. The third question is, who will do it? Will be the dealerships doing it, or will be the aftermarket doing it? And that obviously has, from the dealer's perspective, a major impact on what the impact will be from a revenue generation potential. So let's deal with these questions one at a time. First of all, there's different segments of work in the dealership's business. How will they be affected? Let's start with factory recommended maintenance. That's a big category of work. And that generally comes down to three things that might go into a maintenance package. One would be perform some form of an inspection on a component of the vehicle. The second would be just on a routine maintenance basis, time, mileage have passed. Now you're going to replace a part. And third is time, mileage has passed, and you're going to perform a service. And as an example, this came right out of the Ford Mustang Mach-E maintenance schedule right off their website. And they have two intervals for scheduled maintenance. They have the 10,000 mile and the 20,000 mile, and they rotate back and forth. And if you look at both columns here, you can see that, first of all, they're very, very similar, the content. In fact, there's only one item where there's a difference. Otherwise, what you would do at 10,000 miles is the same thing as you do at 20,000 miles. And that difference is that there would be a replacement of the cabin air filter on a 20,000 mile interval as opposed to the 10. But the other things, perform a service as an example, rotate tires is an example of you would on a routine basis perform a service, 10,000 miles, 20,000 miles, inspect tire wear is an inspect item, Replace the cabin air filter is a do something item. And you can see that there is a fair bit of inspection in here. In fact, the vast majority of the content of this package, both these package, are inspect, 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 inspect. Now, you're inspecting with the expectation that at some point in time you might find something that's wrong. Otherwise, why would you bother inspecting it? Because things do wear out or things do break. And as a component of the inspection, you may end up with some repair. But the inspection itself is needed in pretty well all cases and is surprisingly lucrative on the EVs compared to what's going on in the internal combustion. And the example probably of the vehicles that have been on the road the longest is Tesla. And this was just published actually last week by RepairPal. According to RepairPal, average Tesla maintenance cost is $832 per year, comparing to an average of $650 for the other models that are being sold. So the maintenance component is significant and is a significant opportunity for, call it what it is, it's gravy work. It's work that requires probably a different level of skill to do the inspection, because they'd be looking at things that they wouldn't be normally looking at on an internal combustion engine. But this isn't rocket science. And while there is less content in the maintenance schedule, because there is no oil change, there's no fluids to be replacing, which people seem to highlight by saying there's going to be very little to do. That's only one small component. The perceived expertise to take a look at an EV commands a higher price in the marketplace. So there is a significant chunk of work available through that bucket of scheduled maintenance. What about some of the other buckets? Well, supplemental maintenance services. One of our regular guests on the round table is BG, and I haven't heard that they're shutting down. So they're there, and they're going to be there, and they're a very capable and innovative company. And as time progresses, they will find other value-added services that will enhance the vehicle ownership experience, and they will be developed for EVs. I'm very confident in that. Not sure exactly what they're going to be, and spoke with one of the BG distributors who was saying, no, they're working on stuff, not sure exactly what it's going to be yet, but there will be a category of work which would be sort of supplemental maintenance services that will be offered. Replacing things that wear out, wear items. The ones you think of most, Dave Boyle will certainly chime in here, tires, brakes, will be needed, but for a different reason. The friction material on brakes isn't used nearly as often in an EV as it is in a internal combustion engine, so they won't wear out nearly as fast as they would otherwise. But there are some corrosion elements of brakes that have to be taken a look at least inspected, that may result in a need to replace. Wipers, the battery. We haven't got to the point yet where people are being asked to shell out $13, $15, $20, $25,000 for a new battery system. And it'll be interesting to see just how that gets handled. What is available to consumers to almost help finance the redoing of the electrical system in that vehicle at a huge expense. But that is a opportunity for the dealers. A lot of the things that will be needed to correct will be done through reprogramming of software. And whether that be in dealership or increasingly over the air remotely, There'll be more and more in that category of reprogramming work that'll be done. Some of it will be covered by warranty. Some eventually will be covered by customer pay, but that's a increasing category of work that will certainly add to the revenues of the dealership as it moves forward. Fixing stuff. When you do the inspection, you'll find that things are often broken. There are fewer mechanical systems, but there is an air conditioning system, there's a suspension system, there's a lot of systems around still in the vehicle, and they will break, and that will be an opportunity. But more of the systems will be electronics, and the diagnosis and the replacement of knowing which one to replace, and the reprogramming that goes along with that requires greater skill and a greater parts cost as well. So that's another segment that will be significant. And finally, it's been my view that at some point in time, dealers are going to get serious about the aesthetics of the vehicle with appearance or functionality or performance enhancement accessories. And, you know, that will become more and more a part of the dealer service business. It's a major opportunity that's untapped, except for after the initial vehicle sale. A lot of accessories often get sold as part of the sale, but then the dealers kind of get out of the business and leave it to others to come in and go after that business. I think the dealers will see that there's more opportunity there that will take them in that direction. So is there services to be performed question suggests to me that there's going to be lots of services to be performed. And that tied into the questions 2 and questions 3. You know, first, will it be performed? Just because it's needed. I mean, cars have had scheduled maintenance. Cars have had owner's manuals that are full of things that need to be done that doesn't. The Car Care Council estimates that currently there's over $50 billion a year in needed services that go unperformed. That's enormous. Why? Well, it's primarily the result of lack of appreciation by the consumer of the need and value of those services, combined, quite frankly, with can they afford it? You know, that 50 billion, there isn't just sitting around, you know, waiting to be spent in this category. It's a choice to spend it here or spend it there. Will that be different for the EV? If you can design a program that educates the customer on the needed work, and the customer's demographic, I think, favors protecting the vehicle. The vehicles are going to be more expensive. The owners of these vehicles are going to have, I think, a more I want to take care of it attitude towards the vehicle. I think there's a greater chance that a larger percentage of that 50 billion on the EVs won't be there, that the work is going to get done. And it's going to get done because people are going to have a mindset to want to take care of their vehicles. Kind of going back to when, you know, the Asian imports entered the market, when, you know, it was just the domestics, you know, back in the early 60s, you know, the domestics, they were the only game in town. The Asian imports came and didn't have the breakdowns, but they had a maintenance schedule, which they really were able to convince the consumer was necessary. Now that's changed over time as it's become more commoditized. But I think that we're going to find, at least in the early stages, the EVs are going to be thought of as being special, and people are going to want to take care of them. Who will do it? Will it be the dealership or the aftermarket? Well, currently the dealers have, you know, depending on where you look at, 25-ish%. I've seen 22 at the low end, 30 at the high end, but 25% of the service market is going back to the dealers. That means that 75% of the work of the vehicles on the road have been captured by the independent aftermarket. Will the dealers get a larger share of the EV service and parts business? I believe they will. First of all, I think it'll be more challenging for the aftermarket to make the investment in tools and training necessary to service the broad range of EVs. I think they're going to pick their spots carefully. but they aren't going to have the capability to be across the board competitive in the servicing of the EVs. The dealers will have the head start. We've talked many times about, the shame it is that 75% of the business goes to the aftermarket when every vehicle was put on the road by the dealer. And they then abdicated that market and left it to the aftermarket to take the lion's share. I think they have an opportunity now to have this head start. They're selling the vehicle, they have a one-on-one relationship with the customer, and they have the ability to be able to have a conversation about what's it going to take to properly take care of the vehicle. They'll have that head start in educating the customer on the needed services and why the dealer is the place to get it done. And finally, I think, and you'll see it, customers will have the impression that the dealership is the place that's the preferred service provider by the OEM. In fact, this comes right out of the Tesla's website. Damages or failures caused by maintenance or repairs performed by non-Tesla certified technicians are not covered by the warranty. And that's a perception, in some extent it's a reality, but the tendency is going to be for there to be more of the work that's going to go back to the dealers. So the dealers are likely to get a significantly larger share of the EV service and parts market. So in the internal combustion engine market, you've got a fair bit of work that's necessary, maybe a little bit more than in the EV, but you get a lot of it that isn't performed, and you get a lot of it that's going elsewhere. What we can conclude is that take a look at dealers' revenue. It's a multiple, available work times percentage work performed times percentage work performed at the dealership is your formula for your dealership's revenue. The dealers have the opportunity to do it right, to educate the customer from the time of sale on what's needed to protect the investment in the vehicle, and aggressively market those services when they're due. When that 10,000 miles rolls around on the Mustang EV, are you in front of the customer saying, hey, this is important, now's the time, come on in and get it done? That retention focus is an opportunity. Dealers had this opportunity before. They had the opportunity years ago. They could have shut the aftermarket out. Instead, they took the attitude, more work than we can handle, we don't care. It really wasn't the top of the mind, and they blew it before. Hopefully they won't do it again. Hopefully they'll take that opportunity to have that one-on-one conversation and get that retention level up, get the customer buying what's needed and doing it at the dealership. And instead of they're saying, we won't have enough capacity, we're going to be back to a situation where we're going to have to grow our service business to accommodate it. My point of view.
Les, I remember you telling me a while back that early in your career, you were a numbers guy. You started off going over the numbers, okay, in business. And I look at that formula here that says dealer revenue generated equals available work times percentage work performed times percentage work performed at the dealership. That's the formula right there. And you've been putting these formulas together, all your life. And now here we have a formula, to look at this new opportunity, if you will, and it is on EVs, and what will, be another chance for the dealers to take back our industry.
It's almost a new ball game. You watch the way the OEMs are approaching the sale of EVs. Ford, as kind of split the franchise in two. With EV as being part of their go-to-market strategy and still some internal combustion, you have a chance now to redefine the service experience. Don't blow it.
Great advice, Les Silver. And Les, thank you for all you do for our industry. I hear more and more every month. It's like a snowball going downhill with Dynatron software, with what you're doing, for our dealers. And I'm sure, Les, that you will be on the forefront with helping our dealers here, as more and more EVs come into the marketplace with, with pricing and doing it properly.
Yep. I certainly will.
Everybody, if you want to reach out to Les Silver and Dynatron, his information is scrolling at the bottom here. And I encourage you to do that. A lot of our dealers use Dynatron and are very impressed with what has happened to their industry and to their business. So I encourage you to do that. And Les Silver, thank you so much for your insights. And I think you've answered a lot of questions, and you've also opened a lot of minds as to, where we're headed in our industry. So on behalf of the fixed ops community, thank you again.
You're very welcome, Ted.
Les Silver from Dynatron Software here this morning at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.